My name is Rodney Mayers. I am Chief Revenue Officer of Proxemic. We are a data company. We are now based here in Palo Alto. We were actually founded in 2006 back in Munich, Germany. You know, one of the things that we focus on is kind of maybe a little mundane, but it's the most basic fundamental asset of online advertising, and that's the page. And so today what I want to share with you is a little bit about how we approach pages, how we look at pages, and what it actually means to digital advertising. Which way did I go? There we go. So headquartered here in Palo Alto, we have about 40 customers right now all across Europe and Russia. We'll be moving in or back in to Asia actually in Q4 of this year. And what we specialize in is highly granular page level data. Most of you may know that as contextual data. But something interesting happened, you know, back in '06 when we were started, we were trying to understand how do you actually get meaning and data out of unstructured content? How do you sift it? How do you find it? And we looked at semantics, we looked at kind of the things that were around at the time, and it didn't quite work for us. So we pioneered a brand new opportunity with both non-linguistic, non-semantic structures. We use pattern recognition. And what that does and allows us to do is to actually take a page, break it down into its component parts, and provide very granular data about the page itself. What this also does is it allows us to handle languages in a very unique way. So most partners, our partner in Russia, Video International, came to us and said, we cannot find anyone to help us with our advertising. Can you help us understand and do contextual analysis and brand safety? And we threw our machines at it, and in about a week or two, we came back with at least a base understanding of the Russian language, and we've been working with them ever since in handling the nuances therefrom. Two investors have been with us from the very beginning, Wellington Partners and Holtzbrink Ventures, also based in Europe. So what is this thing, the advertising environment? What is Rodney talking about? You know, in the early days, and I've had the good fortune of being in the industry for quite some time, going back to traditional media roots, is it was so easy back in the late 90s. You kind of picked your portal, you picked your destination site, you said, this is great, this is safe, I know what this is. If there was a traditional media component, you're like, yep, I know what that is offline, so it must be the same online. And then this funny thing happened called RTB and digital programmatic buying. And the hell that broke loose from there was that you were now buying impressions at the impression level. You were flying around, you were buying everything, then social came in, then mobile came in, and then of course this video. And brand safety took on a different element. It was no longer about just the site. People don't consume sites, they consume pages. It was now about what is the environment that I'm actually entering. And so, you know, you can say, yes, I'm buying Forbes or I'm buying CNN, but when there's a story about, name your category, a cruise ship that sinks off the coast of Italy, or Mexican drug lords cut off the heads of people and drop them on the highway, that is not brand safe. Brand safety is not just about porn. It's about the environment that you're entering. Also, you know, we've heard a lot about viewability. Well, for us, looking at page quality is also something that you should factor into your ad impression that you're looking. Are you around 7 ads, or are you in an environment with 3 ads? Are you in an environment with 14 links versus original content? What does that page look like? That's what we focus on. We neither buy or sell inventory. We are a pure data provider, and we work with partners across the industry. Our technology, as I mentioned earlier, is based on something called pattern proximity profiling. In a nutshell, what we do is our spiders actually will go out much like a search engine and retrieve a page, and we will analyze it for all the elements I discussed earlier. So we look at context, we look at the environment, we look at whether it has certain brand safety flags, we follow the IAB's quality assurance guidelines, so we look for porn and terrorism and weapons and everything else that we can find on that page, and we relay it back to our partners. One of the things we found with this particular approach is that it was very good at handling user-generated content. Not just user-generated content at the bottom of a page, but in strict UGC environments, how do you tell the nuance of the conversation? When dealing with a blog roll, how do you parse that and actually understand what is happening on that page at that time within a certain view? And as we discussed earlier, it helped us handle new languages as well. With that approach, though, something very interesting happened. Most categories, and let's say the IAB categorization, handles about 370 to about 390 categories. What we wound up with in our data structure was about 350,000 categories. No one in their right mind would try to target on anything that deep and that granular, but that granularity is important for targeting and for understanding exactly what's happening. So what we had to do then was develop a second part of our technology called dynamic category matching. And all that says is we take all of that unstructured information, we take all of that data sitting in our nodal database, and we transfer that and map that into IAB, into Google categories, into eBay categories, or into your own taxonomy. That's very, very powerful because, as we found, there is no one singular taxonomy that defines the entire scope of every language or the entire scope of categories. But what's important is if there is a category that you cannot necessarily find, or you need to deal with nuance, you need to deal with that at a structural level. So a case in point is again with our partner in Russia. Porn, as we see it here in the United States, is defined at the data level in a very unique way. But dealing with Russian porn, and it sounds kind of funny, but dealing with Russian porn, it's actually a far more subtle game. And what we did with our partners, they said, look, here are the keywords that actually make sense. Here's what we see when we look for porn. Here are the environments we're trying to avoid. We took those keywords, we put it into our system, and we remapped it back into a new structure that allowed us to identify in Russian environments that they wanted to avoid. That's very, very powerful and very unique. And as we look to go back into China in Q4, it allows us to handle those environments, especially for brand advertisers that are looking to avoid certain environments. This, for us, is what makes us unique, is what makes us special. And in all the large agencies and their analytics teams, as well as DSPs and others that we work very, very closely with, this is one of the key differentiators that they find extremely powerful as well. So what does this all mean? So I come to a page, and you know, in the old days, or even today, you can say, hey, I'm a XYZ site, here's my channel, it's called sports, and here's my sub-channel, let's call it outdoor sports. Well, sometimes what we've seen is, in many times, one page, just one page, can qualify for 3 or 4 categories. The self-declared category by the seller of the inventory is great for a very high-level understanding of the page. But on the opposite side, at the actual data level, we may see that that one article, that one piece of content, is associated with news, sports, outdoor, and even travel. Mapping that environment is important, not only because, yeah, you can do it, but if you're trying to bring demand to your inventory, if you're trying to target and bring more advertising to that one particular page, you may actually qualify that page for more than one advertiser, with all the other attributes of brand safety and page quality associated with it as well. Taking that page and breaking it apart, we do the contextual analysis. We also look at brand safety, as I mentioned, and then we also look at page quality. What does this page look like? One of our large agencies came to us and said, you know, can you help me define the environment? Can you help me understand, are there more than 3 ads on the page? Will I get high share of voice? Is the quality of the page actually a good environment for this particular brand? And each brand has completely different standards for what that means. An interesting thing, and you hear a lot about audience targeting today and also just in the industry, is, you know, I think we sometimes forget that audiences show up because of the content in the pages. And so how do you relate all of that audience information actually to content? And so what we do on behalf of our partners is we actually will take their log file data, we will actually process it, and cluster back for them the connections of their own audiences to the content those audiences were engaged with. That mapping of content to audience is extremely important for one reason. If you've got an automotive ad and you're targeting in an endemic channel like automotive because you think it's an auto intender, but you actually find performance in a different category, you may want to do lookalike content targeting. You may want to go after that audience member in an environment that matters to them, but somehow there's a connection there that you did not see. We try to surface that intelligence, we try to surface that data, and provide it back to our partners so that they can improve their advertising. This is extremely important for our brand advertisers. Retargeting direct advertisers find this interesting kind of more in the periphery, but brand advertisers find this very interesting because it reminds them of what they buy in traditional media. When they buy television, they know their environments. When they buy radio, they know their environments. And when they buy print, they know their environments, and they know which environments perform. We've been very successful in bringing this to market. Our business model is straightforward. It's a combination of licensing as well as usage. All of our page-level products start at about 4 cents CPM. Our audience or user level tends to be more of a licensed product and is very customized to each one of our partners. Everything we do is dropped into our own unique analytics cube. We also, again, we looked at Hadoop, we looked at all the typical frameworks that were out there, and we actually had to build our own system to actually handle this much data, especially on a daily basis, and provide it in a customized UI. The key to our business model, though, especially on the usage side, is you only pay when your ad is actually delivered to the page. So we don't just charge you for processing. We tend to do that on an ongoing basis. And in order to do this well, you have to process lots and lots of impressions. We are quickly approaching 500 billion impressions a month processed. This is globally. We think once we bring China online and continue our growth in Europe, we will probably hit about 500 billion impressions a month processed. The actual data that comes off of that is measured in terabytes per day. But what we actually do is Louis Monnier, who is our chief scientist, some of you may know Louis from his days at Alta Vista. He was the co-founder of Alta Vista. He helps us tackle not only language, but also some of the heavy lifting on processing. To that end, it's a very seasoned team. We do not divulge revenue or profitability numbers as a small private company. I will be around, however, to speak with anyone that is interested. Again, thank you for your time and attention. I know there's been a lot of us up here already this morning, but we are Proxemic, and we look forward to working with many of you in the future. Thanks very much.